Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tarda Zone Talks. It's the day after the night before, and we have some news. But first of all, I just like to say the meltdown on Twitter has been absolutely the funniest thing that I've seen to hit this fandom in a long time. Um, uh, the reaction by these fans who the BBC have pandered to the last 5 years is absolutely hilarious. Um, some even in the chat last night claiming, oh, this will be the end of the Tarzan now because he'll have nothing to talk about. You know, he won't be able to criticize and blah, 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 blah. If you think that's why people tune in to me, you've got another thing coming. We do watch alongs and we do all of that other stuff and we have an audience, right? It's at the end of the day, a lot of people were attracted to this channel because they felt the same way as I did about Doctor Who. But I did ask people to give their ratings. And if you remember, I actually said that Doctor Who's ratings for this episode would get 3.75 million views. And you know what? I wasn't too far off. I was actually literally spot on. It peaked at 4 million at the end at the regeneration scene. But the overnights are in, and I have to say, it's kind of strange because not many people are talking about it. Which because I haven't seen it on Twitter, right? I had to actually look for this myself, and this is how I was able to find out about the overnights because nobody is actually talking about it. It's like as if they've forgotten. Now, there's a couple of things I need to actually say about what happened last night, by the way. Not on the streams, but with the David Tennant interview, because there were some key things that were said that I think have gone over these fans' heads, and what BBC said in the report as well, gone over fans' heads. But here we go. So we'll screen share this. Hold on. So here are the ratings. And remember, these are overnights. So the live views I'm going to say were less, right? We'll find out eventually though, because you know someone will report on the live views. But there you go. An average audience of 3.7 million watched Jodie Whittaker's final Doctor Who episode. Overnight figures reveal. A peak of 4 million watched her regenerate as it was revealed former David Tennant would return to the series next year. So her regeneration scene actually got a little bit more of a boost because obviously then people were wondering whether David Tennant was going to be, if it was going to be David Tennant or it was going to fade to black. So there was a lot of interest in David Tennant's appearance. Now, just to let you know, last night, right, Jodie's regeneration scene was thrown up on YouTube, but also David Tennant's first trailer was thrown up. And David Tennant's trailer last night, now I don't know if it's the same case now, but David Tennant's trailer got more views, over 100,000 more views than Whittakers' regeneration. The media today have also started to come out. If you write in Doctor Who, the power of the Doctor, and go to your news thing on Google, you will see the likes of Digital Spy and others slating this terrible episode, which is 5 years too late. But I have noticed, right? I have noticed that it seems to be open season on this era now. Even during the BBC report, when they were doing the interview with David Tennant, as they were doing the little homage to him, right, and showing him on the show in the past, they actually said this. At its peak, it reached 18 million people. The BBC are openly, literally slagging this era off, right? It's like it's over now. They know they made a mistake, and now like they're all of a sudden Digital Spy, Screen Rant, all of these people, Radio Times, all of these people that defended this era, and even called fans out, are now turning their back and criticising this era of Doctor Who. And I have to say, shame on you guys, shame on the BBC, and shame on anybody that supported this era. I'm serious. This era was an absolute complete crap show. And to be quite honest with you, if I hadn't got the cameos in this episode was a terrible episode. It still is a terrible episode. The cameos, I haven't gotten into my review. It'll be a member stream. I'll be doing that soon. I'll be doing it this week anyway. There'll be that member stream. I'll give my opinion on it. Right? But I called it, I said 3.75 million now. So 3.7. I knew it wasn't going to get that much of a attraction. But that is absolutely dire. 3.7 million for a Doctor's last story. It doesn't matter how the other side frame this. This is bad on all levels, on every level. And now the media think now that after 5 years of bashing us for telling the truth about this era, that you are going to come out now and bash it. Right? We've also seen attacks on David Tennant, RTD, and the BBC have been accused of misogyny. The Tasman stands and the Whittaker stands are saying it's a step back for the show. It's disrespectful to Jodie Whittaker to bring back David Tennant, right? And they're attacking David Tennant for overshadowing Jodie Whittaker. He was always going to overshadow. See, this is the thing. Yous might think she was the best Doctor ever. Yous might think that our era was the best ever. But every poll that is done on Doctor Who, right, either David Tennant wins or Tom Baker wins, right? Now, the question you guys are missing and should be asking yourselves is this. Why did they bring back David Tennant? Right? Because some of you are saying on Twitter, make this make sense. Tell me how this F the BBC, all of this. I can make it make sense for you right now. And considering I've been right about this era from day one, it's about time that you kids listen to what I have to say, and what other YouTubers out there that have been telling the truth about this era have to say. The reason why David Tennant is back is because the show was being cancelled after Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker. If you watch that episode and analyse that episode, that was a goodbye episode, a goodbye to Doctor Who. This is why we got some of the classic Doctor cameos and some of the old companions and returning companions coming back, right? Those cameos, that was a goodbye episode, right? The show was getting canned, right? Then pops in RTD. Oh, let me and Bad Wolf Studios take it over and see what we can do with it. The BBC say, okay, let's give it one last shot. But they gave up on this era. They gave up on this era so much they waited until the last minute to promote it. Right? Especially this special. Right? They gave up on Doctor Who. They gave up on Doctor Who after Series 11. That's the reality of the situation. Right? After Series 11. Series 11 mortally wounded the show. Told you that. People blame Series 12 because Timeless Children and all of that other rubbish and The Fugitive Doctor. No. Series 11 did the most damage. And the reason why was because it was something completely different to the way we'd known Doctor Who. Once he'd done that, that was it. Right? And then you compound on top of that, right, the fact that, yeah, they cast Jodie and then they made it all about her gender. And then they start putting all of this politic in the show. It was always going to fail. It was always going to fail. Now, I've seen some people say, the Tassies, I'm going to become a Not My Doctor. Not My Doctor doesn't exist. Many times you have to be told. right? It's what you like to call people that didn't like a certain doctor. And now you are hating on David Tennant. So therefore then, okay, if we were to play your game, we would say yous are not my doctors. But you're not my doctors. You just don't like David Tennant coming back as the doctor, and that's fair enough, right? But the question that you should be all asking yourself is, why has he returned? Well, you have to bring back the most popular doctor in the New Who era to try boost the ratings. And that's exactly what's happened. David Tennant has returned because A, he loves the show, and B, because RTD has asked him to come back because they want to try and save this show. Right? So that's why he's back. So he's not back because of misogyny and because he's given into the not my doctors, which I've heard a lot of from these Tassies and Whittaker stands. That's not it at all. Right? BBC, listen, Chris Chibnall proved last night that he does not give two craps about the Tassies. Right? Try to warn you. I've been warning you from day one when this all starts happening. I said it. He's not going to respect it, right? He doesn't give a crap about the LGBTQ plus community in reality. He's only pandering to you because he needs to boost the ratings, right? And he proved it last night, right? There was no indication of those two even kissing during that episode. It was never going to happen, right? And then he's complaining about Ace and Tegan, right? How they didn't mention the fact that those two, according to those fans, are lesbians, right? He did nothing on that either, right? He ignored the timeless child. Basically what he did was everything that he made a mess of over these last 5 years, he ignored. He ignored it, right? And what he gave us was, and if you analyse the episode, I see some people saying out there that this was a great episode. It wasn't a great episode. It was all over the place. Why are you still defending something that was rubbish? The cameos were great. I'm not going to lie. I got very emotional during the cameos. I thought the cameos were the only decent thing that he done. And David Tennant coming back was brilliant, right? But other than that, the episode itself was absolutely rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. And it wasn't even the power of the Doctor. It wasn't even an episode on the Doctor. It was more. This was more an episode on the Master. The Doctor again, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, as Chibs has always done throughout our reign, made her a sideshow in her own bloody franchise, in her own bloody show. He never cared for you. Didn't care about Tasman. He said it in an interview. He's going to mess around with it. And that's exactly what he did. And it's disrespectful. But yeah, yous were all defending him anyway. But now that yous haven't got yous our way, because yous didn't get that kiss last night, yous think now yous can come out and... No, it's too late to complain now. You should have been complaining when he disrespected same-sex couples in the first place by saying he was going to play around with it. So you reap what you sow. You defended him because you took anything that he gave you, right? And you didn't even look at the fact that none of this was done with any proper development, and any proper sensitivity or respect, right? So there's no point he is all banging on now and giving out to him. It's too late. The time to give out to him was when this thing first started. To give out to him, to fucking make sure that he respected Tasman, right? But he didn't respect Tasman. He didn't give two shits about Tasman. He didn't give two shits about you, right? And that's the reality. He didn't. And the BBC never gave a crap about you, by the way. The only reason why they pandered to you is because the real audience, the audience and the fans that watched this show religiously throughout the years had all walked off. They all ran away, right? Because it wasn't Doctor Who anymore. So you reap what you sow. This was her last episode. Her last episode, right? And it peaked at 4 million, if even that. Right? That's what they're saying, right? It peaked at 4 million at the end of her regeneration because everybody was interested to see would it be David Tennant or something else would happen. That's the only reason why it peaked 4 million. because of David Tennant. So you can criticise David Tennant all you want and say that it's misogyny to bring him back and it's this, that and the other. Without David Tennant, you wouldn't have Doctor Who. Without RTD, you wouldn't have New Who, right? So show the two of them respect, yeah? If you don't want to watch David Tennant play the Doctor, fine. Some people, some of these fans, right, Tassie stands that have been going around calling us racist, these are also attacking Shooty. Now, I've seen it from both sides. Now, I watched that scene again. I watched that trailer again, right? And I'm going to say that was not camp, right? Me and Cheryl watched that several times, that scene. It wasn't camp. His country where the country where he came from, his parents came from, that accent was coming through very heavy, right? But he wasn't camp. I don't know where people are saying he was camp. I've watched that clip several times with Cheryl. All I could hear was his accent coming out really strong. I didn't hear any campiness to it. Now, he could play a camp, but as Jack said, if he plays a camp but it's done well and they don't focus on certain things and they just make Doctor Who, all well and good. All well and good. But good people and the Tassies, you know, yous are doing exactly what you accused us of doing. Right? And yous are all upset and you can't understand why these decisions have been made, right? That was us 5 years ago. That was us 5 years ago. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Now you know how it feels like what we went through 5 years ago. Now you know how it feels. And if that doesn't make you realise or make you understand where we were coming from now, well then, you know what? Yous are a lost cause at this stage. Yous are a lost cause. But there's no point of attacking RTD. There's no point of attacking BBC, right? And there's no point of attacking David Tennant. Sure, BBC have no hands on it. It's Bad Wolf Studios anyway, so yous are focusing on the wrong people. That's the problem. She was a sideshow in her own special. Someone's just wrote it in the comments there. She was a sideshow in her own bloody episode. And then people were just turning up out of thin air and no explanation, right? Now, the media have come out and actually slated this, right? Some have, and some have obviously defended it. But most of them agree that it was all over the place, but the cameos, the fan service was great, right? Now, listen, I don't normally buy into fan service, right? But that's the one thing he handled right during that episode. But does this elevate this episode in any way or make it any better? No. This episode is still absolutely rubbish. All over the place. It's all over the place. The degeneration crap. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. To be quite honest with you, absolutely ridiculous. You know, Sasha was one of the highlights. Was the highlight of that episode, in my opinion. It should have been called The Power of the Master, not The Power of the Doctor, because Sasha absolutely stole the show on that episode last night. It was the Sasha show. It wasn't Jodie Whittaker's last hurrah. It was Sasha's feckin' absolute crazy version of the Master, which I love. He is an absolute psycho as the Master. And I'm being honest, you know, people have been talking about Sasha being in Shooty's era. I would not have a problem with that 100%. Under RTD, even better. Man, Sasha will bloody absolutely. Last night he was brilliant. He was one of the highlights. Me and Gobby Guy really enjoyed Sasha Dewan's performance last night. And I've enjoyed his performances as the Master from day one. I've been one of the few actually on here that actually did like, because I know most of my audience, some of them are not a fan, think he's too hammy and is over the top and stuff. But I thought he got it absolutely spot on last night. Spot on last night. This was his episode. And that's a shame. And again, I don't say this with any pleasure. Jodie Whittaker should have went out with a bang. A proper bloody epic adventure with proper story, proper character development, and proper plot threads. All she got was a story that jumped from one scene to the next. Do you know why he did that, by the way? It was so fast paced. Someone said it as well online. I've seen a lot of comments of people saying it online, and someone said it on the panel as well. It was so fast paced that we didn't have time to think, because if we did actually think, we would know how bad this actually was. So that's why it jumped from one scene to the next all the time. It kept moving, right? And fair enough, the action in it was actually decent. But I'm sorry, if you don't have a coherent fucking story, you can have all the action and it can look the best. As I said, visually it was stunning. But visually stunning is not going to actually win over fans. Fans don't give a fuck about the visuals, in fairness, right? Look at classic era, perfect example. You look at RTD's era, some of the CGI is bleeding awful now. But it's the stories, it's the writing, it's the character development. All of these key elements, right, make Doctor Who Doctor Who. We don't give a crap about visuals. We just want good stories. Sasha came out as menacing without even having to raise his voice. That is quality acting. I absolutely agree. Last night he convinced me and convinced me that I was right when I said that he was an absolute great master. I got a bit of stick for that, but I stuck to me guns because I saw something in Sasha when we saw him in Spyfall. Yeah, Spyfall Part 1 and 2. Man, even then, when he revealed himself to be the master, I was fucking blown away, man. I was blown away by him from day one. I would love to see him in Shooty's era. I'm being honest. The only one, by the way, that can hold our heads up with any credibility in this era, and that's him. But it's just sad. It's actually sad. I mean, the show doesn't deserve this. Jodie didn't deserve it either, no matter what people say about me, right? Look, do I believe she was the wrong person? Absolutely. But under a different showrunner, things could have been different. I still think she still was the role was too big for her, right? But under another showrunner, we will never know how good Jodie will ever be. Now, we might get Air Force indication if she does Big Finish and see how well they do. But I can guarantee it, right? Even me, I can say this. I can guarantee she's going to be 10 times better on Big Finish than she was on the show. And that's the sad thing. Chris Chibnall let her down big time. Now, she didn't help herself, right? But when it comes to the writing and developing her character, right? And in fairness, she should have some input in that as well. But most of the blame is still on Chibs. But there's no point moaning now. Tasman stands and Jodie stands. It's done. It's done now. There's no point in complaining now when we've been telling you this for 5 years. But instead of listening to us, you decided to attack us, label us, bully us, send death threats, all of the other stuff over 5 years. Instead of listening to us, understanding that we could see what was happening and that Jodie Whittaker was getting a raw deal here. Now, as I said, she did not help herself with her own actions and with the interviews that she done. And look, you might think it was a bit of fun to poke fun at fans and all of that. Not to the fans that have watched this show for a very long, long time. They found it disrespectful. And that's the one thing that you've never understood, right? Is that she actually showed disrespect, right? She had to come in and just said, listen, I know some people are scared of change. And, this might be a shock to some Doctor Who fans, but I promise you, I will do the best by this iconic role. But now she came out with the white male gaze crap, start saying that little girls didn't have to cut their hair anymore, right? So she played her part too. But most of the blame of the failure of this era is on Chris Chibnall's shoulders. He let you down. But the problem is, you don't have a leg to stand on now to actually go and complain. Because the time you should have been complaining was after Series 11 had dropped. That's when you guys all should have spoke up and said, no, Jodie Whittaker deserves better. Because Series 11 was dire, right? I can't even get past the first 15 minutes of the very first fucking episode. So I skip it. Then I watch the second episode, it's a bar fest, right? And then by the time I get to the third episode, I'm asleep on the sofa. That's what that series did. We all fell as fucking sleep. Right? Because I've tried to rewatch this Jodie Whittaker's era 3 times now. Right? Series 11, 5 or 6 times I've tried. I'll get to the third episode every time, and then I'm out. That's when you all should have complained. That's when you all should have put your personal feelings aside with the people that you were fighting in the fandom, and you should have joined forces, and we should have forced Chibnall out. Right? We probably wouldn't have been. One of them would either look. I know you wouldn't force Jodie Whittaker out, but at least force Chris Chibnall out, and we would have got behind you on that one because we don't like Chris Chibnall either. And I did a poll which got over, if I remember correctly, it got a couple of thousand votes on it. It was one of the polls that I did that actually got numbers, and I said, who's doing more damage to Doctor Who, Chris Chibnall or Jodie Whittaker? And Chris Chibnall won by a landslide. Right? Won by a landslide. So, you should have put your personal feelings aside. You should have joined forces with us to have Chris Chibnall removed. But you decided to stick with him. You decided to back him and defend him. And all he ever done was let you down. He's let you down. But you can't complain now. You can't complain now. Right? It's too late. So you just have to get over it now. David Tennant is the Doctor because this show was being cancelled. And that's the reality. And you can all criticise me, say I'm a liar, right? And I know that there are people out there dedicated to try and discredit me and all of this and the stuff that I've said, right? This show was getting cancelled, right? In pops RTD to save the day. If he didn't come in, that was your last episode. That was your last episode, right? If he didn't come in. So imagine that. That would have been the last episode, folks. That was the episode they would have left with a Doctor Who off your screens for God knows how many years. That was your last episode. Like, I mean, unbelievable. And listen, Chaos in Cardiff did happen, right? You can all still say I'm lying. Chaos in Cardiff happened, right? They handed in their P45s after Series 11, right? And then, after that, then, they were convinced to stay. Then Series 12 nonsense happened, Chaos in Cardiff, and then apparently the two of them were sacked. That's that's coming out the last couple of days, right? But I've been saying it on the channel for God knows how long. But other people are reporting it now that the two of them were actually sacked. BBC had had enough. They knew they made a mistake, but it was too late. It was too late. They made their bed and they had to lay in it. They had to lay in it because BBC will never admit that they got it wrong, right? Publicly. But what they have done by bringing David Tennant back and literally saying in a news report that at its peak it got 12 million viewers, it's telling you in a non-direct way that they got it wrong. David Tennant would not be back if Jodie Whittaker's era was successful and was brilliantly written. There's no way that any of this would be happening. And that's the reality of the situation. And I'm not giving out to you. I'm not having a go at you either. Because, have to be honest, you know, you have been brainwashed by Chibs. You know, you should have listened to us. I am kind of annoyed at all he is. You know, at the end of the day, I can understand to a certain extent why you would want to protect the female doctor and to stand shoulder to shoulder with her. But at the end of the day, she's not written well. You can't really stand shoulder to shoulder with her. So he's obviously used other tactics, which is sad. Should have listened to us after Series 11. We probably could have pushed Chibs out because there was such a reaction from our side about Chibs that if yous had to join the party, because yous had a bit of influence on Twitter, if yous had to actually join the party and actually called for Chibs to be thrown out, we probably would have got somewhere. I may not have liked Jodie Whittaker's doctor or liked some of the comments that she made, right? But at the end of the day, she was poorly written. And that's one thing that I'm pissed at Chibs for. Because we will never know what a Jodie Whittaker doctor would have actually been like. Because she was in the hands of someone that was incompetent. It's bloody sad. Right? It's absolute. She didn't help herself, as I said, with the interviews and all of that. But still, even after all of that, some fans were still willing to give her a go, including me. That's why I watched Series 11. That's why I watched Series 12. And that's why I watched Series 13. I didn't turn me back on Doctor Who. Right? No matter what these people say, we didn't turn our back on Doctor Who. We tuned in to watch. Because we wanted it to succeed. We did. No matter what people say, right? But as soon as it became clear that it was going to be a failure, there was no point of beating around the bush about it. So we had to be honest. And because of that honesty, as I said, the reaction of the other side, I've been sent all sorts over these last 5 years. And I'm not the only one. There's loads of people in the chat that were also targeted. Right? We all tried. I so much was hoping that Chris could turn it around. Every season. You watch my 4 streams of every fucking season. Except for the Series 11. But Series 12 and Series 13. I was optimistic after Spyfall Part 1. I thought, holy shit, we've actually got something decent here. Let's see if he can keep it up. Second episode, he ruins it. Right? Same with Flux. Flux started off decent, even though Lee said it's all over the place. It's just like the last episode today. All over the place, cutting from scene to scene and stuff like that. But even after the first episode, I was relatively optimistic that he could do something with this. And then Flux ended up going nowhere. Just like everything else that he done. Then Flux is completely ignored, by the way, for this latest episode. So is the universe still destroyed? See, that was another thing as well. So Chibs did all of this shit, right? Timeless Child, blah, blah, Root Doctor. And then by the end, what did he do? He chickened out. He cowered out. He hadn't got the conviction to go through the things that he had set in motion. A coward. Right? And if he was really fully behind Tasman, he would have gave it to you and not gave a fuck about us. But he chickened out. He bottled it. And the reason why he chickened out and bottled it because he never had any intention of doing this storyline. Right? Because the original romance was supposed to be between Ryan Sinclair and Yaz. Right? But of course, Tolson decided to leave the show. So there was never going to be a romance between the Doctor and Yaz because it was always going to be Ryan and Yaz, right? There's even shipping art from that time period from these so-called Tazzies, right? But as soon as that didn't happen, and then in one particular episode, because it might have been mentioned that She said that there was that Yaz might have been bisexual. Then they all started to fucking ship the Doctor and Yaz. But this wasn't. There was no relationship there. This was an imaginary relationship, right? That was thinked up by shippers. And then Mandip and Jodie Whittaker found out about it. And Jordan Series 12, they ignored it because Chibnall actually comes out and says, well, we were told while we were doing Series 12, but we decided not to do anything with it. But for Series 13, I wanted to bring it in because I wanted to play around with it. If you analyse this whole Tassie thing, it's a shambles. It's a disgrace. It's disrespectful to same-sex couples. Chibs ought to be ashamed of himself. Right, let's see who we got in the chat there now, joining us today. We've got 46 people watching. I was told last night that this was the end of my channel because I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Now, there's plenty of RTD stuff that has come out, right? So you're probably wondering why. Listen, this, of course, the episode dropped last night, so we're not going to totally ignore these type of things here right now. But remember, we have one final stream for anybody that wasn't on the panel to come on, because I got a message on Messenger earlier, right? Now, I'm not going to mention the person's name, right? But I've went back to both streams to see if you were actually in the chat, right? And you weren't in the chat. So don't be sending me a message saying that I let you down and I didn't bring you on the panel, when I literally said that day before I done the 2 night streams, I literally streamed to tell everybody that I had thrown my list in the bin by accident, and that anybody that I said was welcome to come on the panel was to show up in the chat, right? So I just wanted to make sure before I replied back to see if you showed up in the chat. And you didn't. So there's no point of coming at me when you didn't even show up. You didn't even show up in the stream. You weren't there for both of them. And I did a stream earlier that day to explain that anybody that was on the panel had to show up in the chat to remind me that they were on the panel. So don't be blaming me because you didn't bother watching me video earlier or showing up in the chat. Right? I don't appreciate that. And you said it's the second time I've let you down. I mean, I'm not liking your attitude here, right? Because I have to say this, right? Everybody knows I bring so many people on. I get so many emails that sometimes I might slip past me head. So I always say, if anybody is on the panel and I forget about them, turn up in the chat and let me know. You didn't do that, so don't be bitching at me. Because I'm done. I'm not going to be fighting with people that are supposed to be in their community, right? If you weren't there on the night, not my problem. Fuck's sake. I told people I lost the list. Everybody was slagging me even in the chat, laughing at me because I lost the list. And the thing I said was, if you want to be on the panel, if you're on the panel and I promise that you're on the panel, you have to show up in the chat. And that's why I did the day stream, right? I was asking people how they were feeling about tonight, and then I made it clear during that stream, right? Anybody on the panel, show up in the chat because I've thrown out the list by accident. Ha, 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 ha. Right? And everybody was laughing at me. I'm fucking sick of it, man. Right? I've already got enough crap to be dealing with. I don't need to be dealing with other people that are fucking always moaning. Right? And this person's always moaning. We don't owe you anything. Right? I don't owe anybody anything. Right? Except maybe Lee, because he does a lot for me. But I don't owe anybody else anything. I'm done. Right? Don't be coming at me with your crap. Queen Charlotte is in the chat. Tiggy is in the chat. Welcome. It's nice to see you guys. Don't forget, as I said, we will be doing a stream for anybody that didn't get the opportunity to come on Again, something else that I mentioned, but that goes over people's heads. So for anybody that wasn't on the panel that couldn't turn up because they were either streaming on someone else's channel or whatever, can come on midweek, and it'll be the last conversation we have at this fucking era, because I'm moving on because I'm sick of this crap. We got Tiggy in the chat as well. We got Scottish Davros with we got Scottish Davros and friends wrestle with pop culture in the chat. We got JWC reviews, the classic 80s fanboy. Don't forget, members, because I see there's a lot of you there. I will be giving you my opinion on the episode in the members stream. I might actually do that later on, so look out for that. You will have your own special notification in the membership tab. So look in the membership tab on the YouTube channel. I'll probably do that stream tonight. It's what, 5:15? Yeah, I will, because I haven't done a member stream in a while, and you know, I've got to do a member stream. We got Lee Halford in the chat as well. Retro Dicky is in the chat. WMD, Raymond O'Reilly in the chat. We've got Peter Harrington in the chat. Nice to see you. Who else have we got? John Michael Fink, Matt Jones saves Guru or Guru. I can never fucking say Baby Yoda's name right. Just say Baby Yoda. It's for I don't care. It's Baby Yoda still to me, right? Fuck that name. Brisk in the chat. Real Super Doctor. By the way, I have to talk about the panels last night as well, because yeah, it was funny. Shelley in the chat as well, and we've got Emma in the chat who used to pop in the chat. She's here today. Nice to see you. We got the Thing King in the chat. Nice to see you, pal. Nice to see you. I like the new avatar there, the new logo. Who else have I forgot? I don't think I've forgotten anybody. We'll keep going down. Oh, we got Spec76 in the chat. If I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I do apologize. The 99 Doctor is in the chat. Nice. I think we got everybody, don't we? KOS12 is in the chat. Again, I do apologize if I've mispronounced. I'm a bit, I'm not very good at some pronunciations. People will tell you that I'm a bit of an idiot when it comes to pronouncing some people's names. I know the fact that they think that you're all going to leave me now because we can't talk about Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall is actually funny to me. PD Rich, nice to see you, ledge. We had some fun on last night's panel. Jack, I think we can all safely say Jack stole the show last night. Sadako24 is in the chat. We got Garbage in the chat. We got Broken Gazamania in the chat as well. Garbage says, forgot me again. No, there, just called you out there, buddy. Just called you out there. The chat was jumping. Don't worry. But look, again, I don't mean to have a go at anybody, but I made it clear yesterday, and I gave plenty of warning, man, right? So, as I said, look, no point in moaning at me. It's done now anyway, right? But you didn't even show up in the chat. If you had showed up in the chat, you would have heard me say, if I said you were on the panel, let me know and I'll send you an email. And I said it a couple of times, right? And I did a stream even before the two streams that we had that started from 7 o'clock. We actually changed the time. We start at 7. But I did a stream earlier that day to explain the whole situation. So if you didn't turn up for that one and you didn't turn up in the chat then after I told people to turn up in the chat, you can't give out to me about it. I'm sorry. I covered all bases. And yes, I can forget who's coming on. That's why it's important for people to remind me. Of course, I'll be here for the next year. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to be, after this week, when all the little articles are finished, I won't be covering them all. But when they stop when it starts getting into more RTD stuff, I'm going to be concentrating on RTD. Anyway, there is going to be RTD stuff to talk about tomorrow. Anyway, so we will be doing that. So we'll be starting off with our RTD stuff. But there are still a few little things to discuss about this era. And as I said, there's people that didn't get a chance to come on last night in the two panels that will get the opportunity to come on one final time. And then that's it. We're done with for everybody on this except for members, because the members are getting obviously a couple of videos on me because I'm doing two member streams on Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker for members. And then that'll be the last time then. Then it's full steam ahead then, RTD. And we'll focus on RTD, and that's it then. There'll be no more talk of Jodie Whittaker or Chris Chibnall. I'm done now, and I'm deadly serious. You could talk about it in the chat if you want to, right? But I won't be highlighting it, and I won't be talking about it when I'm finished talking about it. Unless all the shit that I talked about, like Chaos in Cardiff and all of that other stuff comes out, then I'll talk about it, because then I can go and stick two fingers up to all the people that did hit videos on me and said that I was lying through my teeth, right? That'll be the only reaction you'll get. Yeah, well, let's hope all those disgruntled fans, as you call them, can now look to the future with a bit of optimism. So, I'm looking forward to it. I've even changed my bio on Twitter now. It's all RTD, David Tennant. Shoot, you got what? It's simple. I've changed my bio now. Fully behind RTD I am. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt on comments that he's made because of the way he's written Doctor Who. And after that trailer, and we actually seen that explosion, by the way. The explosion that was in the trailer was the fan video from a different angle where they were showing that big explosion, right? So after watching that little teaser that we got, right, that teaser has made me more excited about Doctor Who than it has in the last. Actually, I'd even say Jordan Moffat's era as well. I think Series 10 and 9 I got really excited for, right? But Series 8, I still do think Series 8 gets bashed too much. I do like Peter's version of the Doctor in Series 8, but I even have to admit that some of the stories in Series 8 are not great, and if it wasn't for Peter, they'd be absolutely dire. It's just he elevated some of the scripts. But Series 9 and 10, so I haven't been really, really excited since Series 10. And I love Series 10, and I still love Series 10. Series 10 gets a lot of stick. Can't wait until we do Series 10 on the channel, actually. We're on Series 9 now. We're going to be starting Series 9. But that trailer last night, it was only a little trailer, but I tell you something, man. Straight away, goosebumps. David Tennant just looks great in that costume, and I don't care what they say. They think they can attack David Tennant, RTD and BBC. I mean, you're screaming at the wrong people anyway. The person that you should be screaming and moaning at is Chris Chibnall for not delivering yet again. The trailer, Charlotte says, the trailer's got me excited. Yeah, and we will be talking about that trailer as well. As I said, there is RTD stuff to talk about, and we will be doing that. But of course, because the overnights came out, we're not going to ignore the overnights. We never do, right? But I mean, 3.7 million for her final outing as the Doctor, and peaked at 4 million because people watched her regeneration. They watched her regeneration because they wanted to see who she was going to regenerate into. Let's make that clear, right?
Sorry, did you say you're streaming tonight?
Probably, yeah. So I'm gonna wrap up now because she's getting a bit Nancy behind me there. She's waiting for an elf fight. So we're gonna go now and have a domestic now. So
I just want to remind everyone I'm not going to be streaming for for several days.
Yeah, we were going to be painting, but there's loads of stuff going on. We will get it done. I'll get it done in between, right?
Y'all, I just want you to know.
Oh,
if
here we
in a
go.
month our home project isn't done, you might not hear from him again.
Wow. Did you just hear that? She's making, see? You go, Cheryl. Yeah, you use all this, Charlotte. I knew you'd do that. I knew you'd jump to her defense. Leave it out, man. Leave it out. Do you know what? But
you started painting in April.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough.
October.
Right. We'll get it done. Right, but here, listen, hear me out though. Just before we do leave, actually, just to say, just to let you know how the panels went. Noel, Charlotte, can you ask Noel to read my membership chat above, please? Yeah, hang on. I keep forgetting I have to go into YouTube. Garbage, I'll do that now, mate. Hold on. Because I'm going into YouTube right now, so I would have spotted it because I wanted to tell you. No excuses, no things need painting. Jesus Christ, man. Will you all stop siding with her? Anyway.
I have paint cans sitting in my living room for 6 months.
Right, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. Right, membership chat. What was with the master saying to Kate something like your father was rubbish? Why did Chibnall write that nasty line? I feel it was OTT. Yeah, I didn't like that line myself, but I mean,
Because Chibnall's going to destroy everything.
Do you know what?
Like Moffat said, destroy it all, and he did.
He did. Look, course Chibs was going to get an odd dig in, right? Here's the weird thing. The Tassie stands and the Whittaker stands are saying that basically we've gotten what we want, right? That's not the case. As I said, the bottom line is the show was tanking. They needed to do something, right? But he was always going to throw his toys out of the pram and have a bit of a dig, right? It's just the way he's been throughout this era. He's done it a couple of times with a few lines that he's putting in during his time as showrunner. I'd ignore it, really, to be quite honest with you. You know, he was trying to... Look, the funny thing is, though, if you ask me who Chris Chibnall pandered to last night, I would say he pandered to all of the fans that felt this era wasn't for them. Because you look at all the cameos, right? That was fan service. That was proper fan service. He was not pandering to the Tassies. He was pandering to all the fans that turned their back on this era. That's what he was trying to do there. So, you know, again, not only did he disrespect them by not making the whole thing or tying up the whole Tasman thing, not tying up the timeless child, he ignored that, right? Flux destroyed the universe, right? So is the universe still destroyed? He ignored that. He brought back certain people. I can't say it because Cheryl's going to watch it. That's why I didn't want her in this room, because we're going to spoil stuff. But the appearance of someone else, they turned up. But I'm not going to spoil one particular cameo. But that person turns up, right? And it doesn't make any sense. It's at least with the classic cameos, it kind of did make sense. But the other person that turned up, it didn't make sense. Someone else turned up, right? So, and then she brought him up. I mean, he just appears out of nowhere in a volcano, right? So, I mean, he just ignored everything that he did. He ignored the time destroy. So, this is what he did. He destroyed canon, right? And then on the last episode, that he could fix it up and tidy it up and tie it all in a neat little bow, he decided to ignore it completely. And then he brings back certain characters that it doesn't even make sense bringing them back because they were part of a different story thread that he never finished. So none of these threads were actually completed. He's tried to tell me how to paint. Listen.
I bet you listening to this right now in a green sitting room would be lovely.
Yeah. what you call it. So yeah, but back to what I wanted to actually do. So yeah, thank you for that membership chat, and yeah, keep them coming in. I keep forgetting that I have to bleed and check YouTube and keep YouTube on.
And everyone feel free to remember Noel, remind Noel he needs to paint.
Right, so will you just please? I'm just trying to come on. So for the Power of the Doctor live watch along, we got 2,021 people tune in last night for the live watch along, and that's only after the night before. So I think that panel is going to break all records of all the other streams. The review panel has done what every review panel has done, over 1K. So this panel at the moment is on 1,200 and hold on, 1,000. I want to get it right. What's going on here, man? There we go. I was doing it wrong. This panel. What the me phone? It's me phone. It's me phone. Jesus Christ. Right, let's try this again. 1,257. So we've got over 3,000 views on both streams, but both put together. So yeah, as I said, this panel has actually, I mean, the biggest viewing panel that we had was the Timeless Children, which was 6,200. And all the other panels are around the 1,000 mark or the 2,000 mark. So that's only after the night before. So for people saying that my channel is dead and blah, 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 not happening. Not happening. But I want to congratulate everybody that turned up, because you guys obviously made the panels, and everybody had fun, which was the main thing. We did have a laugh. And I think there's a lot of hangovers as well from some panelists. But yeah, funny night. It was great. So yeah, so there you go. So well done, guys. Thank you to all the people that have tuned in. And by the way, our subscriber count for some weird reason has jumped. So to all these new subscribers that have subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. I can't believe it. So yeah, whoever gave me the channel shout out, because someone obviously gave us a channel shout out. Thank you. We appreciate it. Has anyone seen Probby today? Nah, he's probably got a massive hangover and he probably sleep for a couple of days, man. I was called. I'm not a real fan of Doctor Who because I did not watch any of her era today on a post. Well, look, some fans did decide that was too much and didn't watch. Does that make you? Does that make you not fans? No, of course it doesn't. I mean, you are fans. Just some couldn't stomach the change, and that happens. There's nothing wrong with that. I just find it quite funny now that all of these fans that are not happy with RTD and David Tennant are hypocrites. You're literally reacting the way we reacted, but somehow your reaction to this is justified, but ours wasn't. And that's the hypocrisy of yous all. And it's sad. We tried to warn yous, yous wouldn't listen. Yous wanted to label us instead. So, before I leave, all I'll just say is you reap what you sow. You should have treated this fandom a little bit better and people within it. And people might have had some sympathy for you today. But nobody will ever have sympathy for you because you are absolute bullies. And, a lot of people left this fandom because of your behaviour. So, as I said, I hope you use this time to reflect on the last 5 years, and hopefully you behave a little bit better in the future. Because at the end of the day, even after all the turmoil you have caused in the fandom and all of this, if you are willing to sit there and give David Tennant a chance, give RTD a chance, give Shooty a chance, right, we might actually have something special here, right? And with the fandom fully supporting it on both sides of the argument, or whatever side of the argument you're on, if everybody can come together, pull together for this era of Shooties and David Tennant's 3 specials, we could be on for something really amazing. And the more people that watch Doctor Who, the more successful it'll be. And again, if people tune in because they like what they see, the writers will see that, RTD will see that, and he'll know that he's on the right path. But if you turn your back on RTD now, then don't expect fans to treat you as nice as the way you treated us. At the end of the day, I might have disliked Chris Chibnall. I might have disliked Jodie Whittakers' doctor, some of the things that she said. But I stayed and I watched this era and I gave it a go. If you are really fans of this show, you will do the same for RTD. You will stop using nonsense now, right? Because it's done. You are screaming and giving out to the wrong person. The person that you should be blaming is Chris Chibnall. But as I said, the time to give out to him was 4 years ago when the 4th series dropped and it was a complete mess. That's when he should have come out. He can't complain now. So even complaining to Chibs now is pointless. So you either come together and move forward with the fandom, or you do what a lot of you said you were going to do. If they cast a male doctor, I'm gone. Well, then maybe then it is time for you to go. I stuck around. I mightn't like the female doctor, but I stuck around and I watched. Right? I stuck around and I watched. So, if you're real fans, you really care about the show, not just Jodie Whittaker and Tasman and all of this other nonsense, but you really, truly care about Doctor Who, you will come along on this journey with us. You will forget the past and move on. Because we're going to move on. We're going to move on. Because the fandom must from this. Right? There's a chance of the fandom being saved now if we can all come together. All this petty nonsense has to stop. The attacks have to stop. Right? It just needs to go away now. So you have a choice to make. And you have a while now to digest it all. And you have thinking time. And my advice to you is, if you do truly love this show, you will back, or you will just watch anyway, even if you don't agree with it. You will watch and give it a go. Give it a chance, like we did. Because I can tell you something, right? Nothing is going to be as bad as the era that we just watched. In fairness to me, the only way is up. The only way is up, baby. Right? The only way is up. We've got a writer in who's winning awards left, right, and centre. We've got David Tennant back, who's the most popular doctor. And then after him, then we get Shooty. We could be in for something truly amazing. The fandom needs to come together now. The last 5 years won't ever be forgotten. But we've got to learn from it, we've got to move on from it, and we've got to move forward. If you guys are willing to do that and support RTD in the decisions that he makes, and if we get behind him and give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a chance, we could be rewarded hugely by getting something that's amazing. So it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys, but it's just sad. It's just sad. Exactly. People will have their different opinions, whether they think this is being done for the right reasons, bringing David Tennant back or not. You know, we had that discussion last night. Jack brought up a very valid point for fans of, you know, being the new Who, 2005 being his Doctor Who, and how he feels about the situation. Everything that happened with the Whittaker era, you know, is exactly what Jack has gone through now, what we went through, seeing something that not being respected and being destroyed. And Jack has that fear now as a fan, you know, because RTD was his showrunner. It was his era of Doctor Who. That's when he came into Doctor Who. So they've got a lot to lose here as well. But as I said last night, doesn't matter what opinion we have right now, let's see what happens first. And if people are right about what they've said, then brilliant. Well done. But let's just see. Let's just see. You never know. It's always been my attitude with RTD. You never know. You never know. And yes, of course, I have said this on the channel. It is very clever bringing David Tennant back because he is the clever. He is the most popular new Who Doctor. But Jack is worried that he be used just for that reason, and that is a valid point. And you know, I suppose as because I've grown up with the show since the 80s, I suppose I never actually until last night kind of took that into consideration. So yeah, Jack is going through the emotions that we were going through right now, not knowing, the worry, is it going to pan out? You know, then if David Tennant's Doctor does pan out, then will Shooty pan out then? Because it'd be like, as Jack said, well, he gave us something that's great, and then like I feel like I've been tricked again, and then we get Shooty's era and it's not as good. You know? So I can understand it. I can understand that. And as he said, he doesn't want to be right. Of course he doesn't. Nobody did. Neither did we. That's the thing. Nobody wants to be right in this. We want to know that, we want to be able to believe that all the decisions that are made for Doctor Who are done for the right reasons. And over the last 5 years, let's be honest, that hasn't been the case. So you can understand, and I can understand, Jack's point of view. And a lot of fans that came into the franchise 2005 actually feel like that. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there. And as I said, for people that didn't watch the panels last night, if you want to hear Jack rip the piss out of me by putting on his Irish accent and ripping the piss out of Chibs and not Chibs, RTD, wasn't it? And Lee. And he did Terrence Dicks as well, which he didn't take the piss out of Terrence Dicks. He did a deadly Terrence Dicks. But if you want to see Jack do impressions of us all, It was actually fun. That was the funniest part of the bleeding stream. I couldn't stop fucking laughing. I thought I was going to be hugely offended because sometimes you can take those things the wrong way, but it was just so fucking spot on. Even when he did Lee, it was just so spot on. The words that he used as well. It was just funny. It was just so good. It was so good. Anyway, as I said, if you haven't watched the streams yet, or you haven't, I don't know if you've watched the episode yet, but if you haven't watched the streams, go and check them out. They were actually fun to watch along. I'm shouting all over the place, and I have to say the cameos did get to me. But I did realise it was fan service, but it was done in the right way. It's just a pity that the episode that all of this was in was dire. But there you go. That's just Doctor Who for you nowadays. Well, not anymore, hopefully. Not anymore, hopefully. But yeah, we will be back soon. So listen, have a good one. Look after yourselves. And yeah, I'm gonna have to change the way I speak now. I'm gonna start putting on a more posh voice because we can't be having Jack taking the piss out of me. I have to say, very disappointed. Money messing. It was funny. Anyway, I'll be back for a member stream later on. So I'm going to cook some dinner, feed the wife before she starts screaming that I'm starving her to death. Yeah, I'll be back later. So look out for that member stream. What is it, 5:45? We're probably around 6:30. So if you're on the channel, you happen to be around 6:30 maybe, I'll be member stream. Get in there and I'll give you my thoughts on the episode itself. Because I didn't give me opinion on the panel last night. So yeah. I mean, I said a few bits and pieces, but I didn't go into too much. But as you can tell, I didn't really bar the cameos. But we will talk about some of the stuff that happened because there was some, yeah, it was just ridiculous. Anyway, have a good one. Talk to you all soon, all you members soon. To the rest of you, I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Enjoy your evening. We got a nice, lovely blue sky here, clouds. It's a bit weird, we got the old leaves now are all changing colour and stuff, but it looks like it's fucking summer, which I'm not complaining, personally. I think it's great. But yeah, it's a bit weird, the weather we're having, but I love it. I love it. Anyway, we'll be back soon. Have a good one, folks. Bye.